Welcome to Viral Frontier.
All right, so you're here because, let's be honest, you want to really get what's happening with AI
Yeah, cut through the noise.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, without all the hype.
Absolutely.
So you sent over the 2025 AI Mastery Report, and wow, this thing is comprehensive.
It's a beast.
It really is. It's designed for folks like you who are in the thick of it. Leaders, innovators, really anyone who needs to understand where AI is going and how to get ahead of the curve.
It's about strategy and really getting a grasp on what's shaping the future.
Exactly. So think of this as your shortcut. Through this massive report, we're going to pull out the most crucial insights, the stuff that really matters.
We'll do the heavy lifting for you, save you some time,
Yeah, exactly.
and hopefully bring some clarity to this super fast-moving field.
All right, so let's dive right in. The report kicks off with a snapshot of the AI landscape in 2024, and the numbers are staggering.
Yeah, prepare to be wowed.
We're talking about a $1.5 trillion market.
It's massive.
And one thing that really jumps out, and this is something the report really emphasizes, is that it's not just the tech giants anymore.
Right, it's going to mainstream.
We're seeing huge investments and growth in all kinds of traditional industries, like healthcare, finance, manufacturing.
It's across the board.
Yeah, it's a sign that AI is becoming a core part of how businesses operate, not just something on the sidelines.
It's becoming essential.
And it's not just growing steadily, it's exploding,
Buckle up.
with a 38% compound annual growth rate.
Yeah, that's not a typo, 38%.
So what's driving this incredible acceleration?
Well, what's really interesting is you've got several powerful trends all converging at the same time.
Okay.
The report specifically calls out generative AI as a major engine of this growth.
Okay, and just to remind everyone, generative AI is...
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So that's the tech that can create things, text, images, even 3D models. It's what's behind the explosion of creative tools and content generation we're seeing.
Right. And so alongside that, the report talks about the increasing power of quantum machine learning and the advancements in autonomous systems.
Those are no longer just theoretical possibilities.
Right.
They're actively reshaping the market, attracting massive investments.
So it feels like we're moving beyond the initial excitement, the experimentation phase of AI.
Definitely feels like it.
The report talks about this shift from AI experimentation to AI industrialization.
That's a great way to put it.
So what does that mean? Like, what's the difference between experimentation and industrialization?
Well, think of it this way. Experimentation might be a company testing out a simple chatbot for customer service, dipping their toes in the water.
Right.
But industrialization is when AI gets deeply woven into the core operations of a business.
Well, it's like...
So instead of isolated projects, it's about systemic integration, using AI to predict equipment failures in a factory, or, analyzing every single financial transaction in real time to prevent fraud. It's about using AI to solve real-world problems at scale.
So it's really about moving from, isolated projects to actually integrating AI into the entire operation.
Yeah, exactly. And the report points to things like MLOps 2.0 and ethical governance frameworks as signs of this maturation.
Okay, so MLOps 2.0, just quickly, what's that all about?
Think of it like this. You know how manufacturing went from small handcrafted workshops to these sophisticated factories with standardized processes?
Right.
Well, that's what MLOps 2.0 is for AI development. It's about moving from one-off projects to a system where you can build and deploy AI reliably and at scale.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
So we've got massive growth and a fundamental shift towards real-world integration.
The AI revolution is happening.
Now let's get into some of those specifics. The report details some of the latest AI breakthroughs from 2023 and 2024.
The pace of innovation is just mind-blowing.
So let's start with generative AI. It feels like there's a new headline every day. What really jumped out at you in the report?
Well, the report highlights GPT-5.
Okay.
The next generation of the language model from OpenAI, and it's not just about text anymore. GPT-5 can handle video and even 3D rendering, but what's even more significant is the tenfold reduction in hallucinations.
Hallucination. So what does that mean in this context?
So in AI speak, hallucinations are basically inaccurate or nonsensical outputs.
Yeah.
When the AI spits out something that's just plain wrong.
Right.
So a tenfold decrease in errors, that's a huge deal. It could really open the door for using these GPT-like models in areas where accuracy is absolutely critical.
Yeah, 10 times fewer errors. That's definitely something to pay attention to. And the report also points out that OpenAI isn't the only game in town anymore, right?
No way. The open source community is catching up fast.
Okay.
The report highlights Meta's Llama 3, which has a whopping 400 billion parameters.
Wow, 400 billion.
And Mistral's Mixtral 8x22b.
Okay, remind me, what are parameters again?
So parameters are kind of like the knowledge capacity of a model. The more parameters a model has, the more nuanced and complex its output can be. Think of it like the difference between a child's vocabulary and a seasoned author's.
Okay, so these open source models are becoming serious contenders to the closed source options.
They're definitely shaking things up.
So how are these advancements actually being translated into real world tools that businesses can use?
The report gives some concrete examples. For instance, there's Microsoft's Copilot 365,
Okay.
which can actually auto-generate workflows, streamlining tasks for employees. Think about how much time that could save.
Right.
And then there's Adobe Firefly 2, which is all about generative design, but with a focus on being ethical and royalty-free, addressing some of those big concerns around copyright and AI-generated content.
Right. So from creative power to actual business efficiency, a generative AI is quickly becoming indispensable.
It's a game changer for sure.
Now, the report also delves into something that still feels a bit like science fiction, quantum machine learning, or QML.
It's definitely on the cutting edge.
Yes. So what's the latest on that front?
Well, the progress is pretty remarkable. The report highlights Google Quantum AI's achievement with their 1,000 qubit processor.
1,000 qubits.
Yeah, and the key takeaway here is the potential for insanely fast computation for certain types of problems. We're talking about 100-fold speed up in solving optimization challenges compared to even the most powerful classical computers.
100 times faster.
Right.
That's hard to even wrap your head around. What kind of impact could that have?
The report specifically talks about drug discovery.
Okay.
So imagine using quantum computing to simulate how molecules behave at a level of detail that's just impossible with today's technology that could lead to the development of new life-saving drugs much, much faster.
That's incredible. So we've got generative AI creating all kinds of content. We've got quantum machine learning potentially revolutionizing drug discovery. What else is on the horizon?
The report also dives into autonomous AI agents.
Okay, what are those exactly?
Think of them like AI systems that can not only perform tasks, but also learn, adapt, and even improve themselves over time without needing a human to constantly tell them what to do.
So they're not just following the pre-programmed steps. They're actually kind of thinking for themselves.
Exactly. They're evolving.
Wow. Okay, so what are some examples of these autonomous agents in action?
Well, the report mentions AutoGPT 2.0 as an example of a self-improving agent that can do things like debug code or analyze market trends.
So pretty high-level tasks.
Yeah, and to make it even more tangible, the report talks about Tesla's Optimus Gen 2 humanoid robots. These things aren't just sitting around, they're performing complex tasks in warehouses, indicating real progress in applying this technology in the physical world.
Humanoid robots in warehouses, that sounds straight out of science fiction.
The future is getting closer than we think.
Now, with all this incredible technology emerging, obviously there are questions about regulation and oversight.
Absolutely.
So what does the report say about the current state of AI legislation?
Well, there are two major developments highlighted in the report. The first is the EU AI Act, which takes a risk-based approach to regulation.
Okay, what does that mean, risk-based?
So it means they categorize AI systems based on their potential to cause harm. So high-risk applications face much stricter regulations, or in some cases, outright bans.
Okay, so are there any examples of that in action?
Yeah, the report specifically mentions the ban on using emotion recognition technology in workplaces.
Oh, wow.
There are obvious concerns about privacy and the potential for misuse, so the EU is taking a pretty strong stance on that.
Okay, so that's the EU. What about the U.S.? What's happening on the regulatory front over here?
Well, the report outlines the U.S. executive order on AI, which focuses on mandating safety testing for AI models that exceed a certain computational threshold.
Okay.
And that threshold is 10 to the power of 26 FLOPs, which stands for floating point operations per second.
Okay.
Basically, it's a benchmark for how powerful an AI model is. So this order is about making sure that the most powerful AI systems are thoroughly tested before they're unleashed on the world.
So different approaches on different sides of the Atlantic, but a clear recognition that some level of oversight is absolutely necessary.
It's a global conversation that's only going to intensify.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, the breakthroughs, the regulatory landscape.
Yeah.
Now let's get into how AI is actually being applied in specific industries.
Let's get practical.
Exactly. The report starts with healthcare.
Mm.
What are some of the standout applications there?
Healthcare is seeing some truly transformative applications of AI, for instance. The report highlights DeepMind's AlphaFold 3,
Right.
which can now predict not just protein structures, but also how proteins interact with DNA.
And why is that important?
Well, it has huge implications for understanding and treating diseases, especially complex ones like cancer. It's like unlocking a fundamental level of biological understanding.
That's pretty incredible. Are there examples of AI already making a difference in how patients are diagnosed or treated?
Absolutely. The report mentions FDA-approved AI diagnostics like Page Prostate, which has a remarkable accuracy rate, around 99% in detecting prostate cancer.
99%, that's amazing.
It highlights the potential for AI to assist medical professionals in making more accurate and timely diagnoses, which can obviously have a huge impact on patient outcomes.
So from helping researchers understand complex diseases to actually aiding in diagnosis, AI is really making its mark on healthcare.
It's revolutionizing the field for sure.
Okay, let's move on to finance and other industry where data analysis is absolutely crucial.
High stakes.
What's the AI story there, according to the report?
Well, the report showcases the potential for AI to actually enhance financial performance. It
Hmm.
mentions JP Morgan's Index GPT, which is an AI-managed exchange-traded fund that has reportedly outperformed the S&P 500 by about 12%.
Wow, that's significant.
It's definitely turning heads in the financial world, but of course, past performance isn't necessarily indicative of future results, especially in such a volatile field.
Right, of course. So are there other practical applications of AI in finance beyond just investment strategies?
Absolutely. Security is a huge area of focus.
Okay.
The report highlights Fraud Offense AI, which is a system used by Visa to detect anomalies in real-time transactions.
So basically trying to stop fraud before it happens.
Exactly. AI is incredibly good at sifting through massive amounts of data to spot patterns that humans might miss, making it a powerful tool for fraud prevention.
Okay, so from predicting market movements to preventing fraud. AI is playing a pretty big role in finance.
It's changing the game.
Now let's talk about manufacturing. How is AI changing things on the factory floor?
Well, the report uses Siemens AI Factory as an example,
Okay.
and they've seen a massive reduction in downtime, something like 40% through the use of predictive maintenance.
So how does that work?
Well, AI can analyze data from sensors on machinery to predict when something's about to fail before it actually breaks down.
So it's all about prevention.
Exactly. It's about minimizing disruptions and keeping things running smoothly.
40% reduction in downtime, that's a huge cost saving for any manufacturer.
It's a game changer.
And it's not just about keeping things running, there's also this push towards greater automation.
Absolutely. The report highlights a really interesting collaboration between Boston Dynamics and OpenAI.
Okay.
They're working on automating warehouse logistics using AI-powered robots. Think about the potential for efficiency and speed.
So from predicting equipment failures to actually moving things around in warehouses, AI is changing the face of manufacturing.
It's the future of the factory.
Okay, so we've seen how AI is being applied across these different industries, but what about the technology that makes all of this possible?
Yeah, the nuts and bolts.
Exactly. The report talks about cutting-edge tools and frameworks. What should we know about this kind of engine room of AI development?
Well, the good news is that the tools for building and deploying AI are becoming much more sophisticated and user-friendly.
Okay, so less of a barrier to entry.
Definitely. The report talks about MLOps 2.0, which we
Okay.
mentioned earlier. Remember, it's about streamlining the entire life cycle of an AI model.
Yeah, right.
And there are tools like AWS SageMaker Canvas, which makes it possible to deploy AI even without writing code.
No-code AI. That's pretty amazing.
It really opens up the possibilities for businesses that might not have a ton of technical expertise.
So what about managing these AI models once they're up and running?
Well, that's where platforms like MLflow 3.0 come in. The report talks about its role as a unified platform for managing all aspects of an AI model's lifecycle, tracking experiments, ensuring reproducibility, governance, deployment. It's essential for maintaining control and making sure these systems are reliable.
So better tools and platforms are making AI development and deployment more efficient, but what about the actual hardware, the computing power needed to run these increasingly complex models?
Yeah, the hardware has to keep up.
Right.
The report highlights some pretty incredible advancements in AI chips. NVIDIA's H200 is mentioned for its insane bandwidth, 4.8 terabytes per second, which is crucial for training large language models.
Wow.
And then there's Cerebrus Wafer Scale Engine 3, a massive chip with 52 trillion transistors designed for handling extremely demanding computational tasks like climate modeling.
52 trillion transistors.
That's mind-boggling.
It's hard to even comprehend.
So yeah, the hardware is definitely keeping pace with the software.
Okay, so looking ahead, the report has a section on peering into the future, 2025 to 2030.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the long-term developments that are anticipated?
Well, one of the most fascinating concepts is AI-driven science.
Okay.
The report talks about the potential for autonomous labs that could discover revolutionary new materials, things like room temperature superconductors.
So AI actually making scientific breakthroughs.
Exactly, accelerating progress across many fields.
Wow. What else is on the horizon?
Well, another area is the advancement of brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. The report mentions Neuralink's Gen 2 as an example of technology that could potentially enable AI-augmented human cognition. Think about the possibilities for interacting with technology and maybe even treating certain medical conditions.
Brain-computer interfaces, that's pretty mind-blowing.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And finally, the report touches on potential regulatory shifts in the future. What kind of changes are being discussed?
Well, one of the things that's being talked about are global AI tax proposals. So the idea is that companies that replace a significant portion of their workforce with AI might face new forms of taxation. It's a reflection of the potential impact of widespread AI adoption on the economy and on society.
An AI tax, that's definitely a conversation starter.
It's something to watch for sure.
Okay, so we've covered the current state, the breakthroughs, the applications, even a glimpse into the future now for businesses listening. How can they take all of this information and actually put it into practice?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
The report has a section on actionable strategies for businesses. What are some of the key recommendations?
Well, the report suggests a practical AI adoption roadmap.
Okay.
And the first step is to audit existing workflows to see where AI could actually be beneficial. Then start with low-risk use cases like chatbots or predictive analytics, and then gradually scale up with robust MLOps and governance frameworks in place.
So a measured step-by-step approach.
Exactly. Don't try to boil the ocean.
What about talent? What
Oh.
kind of skills and roles should businesses be looking to add to their teams?
Well, the report highlights the growing need for hybrid roles, people who understand both the technical side of AI and the business context.
Okay.
Specifically, it mentions AI ethicists who can help ensure that AI is developed and deployed responsibly, and prompt engineers who are skilled at crafting effective instructions for large language models.
AI ethicists and prompt engineers, those are definitely roles we're hearing more and more about.
They're in high demand.
Finally, what advice does the report offer for businesses when it comes to choosing the right AI tools and vendors?
Well, the report emphasizes the importance of having a vendor checklist.
Okay.
So businesses should evaluate AI tools based on things like explainability. Can you understand how the AI is making decisions, compliance with relevant regulations, and of course, a clear return on investment?
So really about making smart decisions and not just jumping on the bandwagon.
Exactly. Due diligence is key.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. I mean, the 2025 AI Mastery Report is packed with information, and I think we've done a good job of pulling out the key takeaways.
Hopefully it's been helpful.
It's clear that AI is not just a future possibility. It's here, it's now, and it's rapidly transforming every industry.
And the momentum is only accelerating.
So as you continue to follow these developments, think about this. With AI becoming increasingly sophisticated and integrated into our lives, what will the relationship between humans and machines look like in the years to come?
That's the big question.
It's a question that this report and our conversation today really brings to the forefront. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.
Take care.
Bye. Yeah.